What's the
Well,
topic today?
oh yeah, the topic today is manhood and
Uh-huh.
womanhood, and if and basically what is it, and have we seen a change in what it actually is? And
Okay.
I myself, first of all, I'd like to get your take on what you think like manhood is. Like, what do you, when I say manhood to you, like, what do you think?
Okay, so manhood is a very broad term. So I like to break
Hmm.
things down to manhood in the Black community. And we know that the Black community isn't monolithic at all, and there are different communities, but just an overall sense of who we are as Black people across the diaspora. I like to separate that from white manhood because that's completely different. Okay, we are not from the same culture. We don't have that's another story. But when I think of manhood and when I think of masculinity when it comes to
Hmm.
Black men, I think of a leader. I think
Right.
of emotional intelligence. I think of the ability to reason and to be objective and to be reasonable as a leader. I think about protectors.
Right.
That is for me the key points of what makes a Black man in my eyes.
Right.
When it comes to Black womanhood and femininity, I think of grace. I think of intuition. Naturally, we are creators. We are a creative force, so that is a feminine force. We are nurturers. And it doesn't mean that a Black man or a Black woman can't exemplify or kind of show all of these qualities in one, because we know that we all have feminine and masculine energy, but I have more feminine and you have more masculine. But I think those two, that's the divine masculinity and femininity for me. And in balance, and when you complement each other, you bring out the best in each other. You're bringing to perfection. So that's how I look at it.
Right.
Nowadays, there's all kind of terms for masculinity and femininity and
Right.
womanhood, and me confused.
Right. I agree.
Stick it to my own original definitions.
Right. Because, all right, so for me, right, when you said manhood is about leadership
Right.
and stuff like that. So for me, if we take the US, for example, in the, let's say in the 1960s, right, in the 1960s, like black families were mostly led by men, and they were mostly married families, like black families within the 60s. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
you're back? Yeah.
Uh-oh,
They were
breaking.
mostly led by men.
Okay.
And am I breaking up?
Mm-hmm.
Am I breaking up?
It was
Can you
breaking
see
up
me?
for a second. We're fine.
Cool. Um, yeah. So in the 60s, you know, the marriage was high in the 60s amongst black people in America and in the Caribbean, because my parents are Jamaican.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, and then we get to 2020, and the black family has broken down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Men and women, I feel like, are confused about their roles,
I,
and
I,
I kind of feel like we're in the dark trying to find what it is to be a woman, trying to find what it is to be a man. And I kind of feel like, from a man's point of view, um, hyper masculinity and aggression has been substituted for what manhood actually is. So
okay.
if for example, um, if you look at black men, right, the most, it seems to me, what is pushed nowadays is the most hyper aggressive, I guess sometimes over emotional black man is seen as a man, like the kind of guy that will smack a motherfucker's face and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if that's manhood to me, because that seems a little bit emotional. Um,
Right.
I also,
He's not
I also,
intelligent.
exactly, exactly. And I also think that a lot of it in 2020 now is, I came from a single parent household, right? And a lot of black men are being raised by single black mothers,
Right.
especially in the diaspora. And a lot of them take on the energy of the female of the house, because that is who is raising them. And
Right,
I
right.
do and I do believe a lot of men, black men, are portraying a lot of effeminate behaviors,
I agree.
a lot of feminine behaviors that are not quote unquote masculine. And so I kind of feel like it's a time where black men and women, and I feel like black women are taking a lot of masculine behaviors also.
I agree. I was gonna chime in, but I wanted you to speak.
Uh, yeah, I believe they're taking a lot of masculine behaviors, and I believe that the lines are getting crossed nowadays. I think we need to kind
Right.
of refocus.
Um, I think that's the problem. There is an imbalance where we are overcompensating on both ends. And whenever we have this topic, and I'm reading the comments as we're speaking, it's a topic for people who don't have a problem taking accountability and being objective. Because
Correct.
if you are one-sided, or maybe you're a feminist or you're misogynistic or whatever the case may be, you're going to stay on the side of women. If you're a woman, you're going to stay on the side of men. But when you are truly about the unification of your people, you can look at both sides. So I think there is an imbalance, and there are women who are taking on a lot of masculine energy because they have to, because there's an absence of that king figure, of that lion figure in the family.
Hmm.
And the other way as well, a lot of black men are taking on a lot of feminine energy because they don't have a solid black man to teach them what it is to be a king.
Right.
And so there is an imbalance. So I think once we start, as black men and as black women, recognizing our part in it, then I think the real solutions will be elucidated. But until then, it's going to always be kind of like a versus, or a conflict or power struggle, because it really just boils down to power struggles.